Today on the American Truck Podcast, the rest of the Battlefield 1 expansions have been announced. The Nintendo Switch has some issues. Nvidia has a new top graphics card. And Twitch is going social. Hello and welcome to the American Truck Podcast with Andrew C.
I don't get sarcasm, apparently.
And freelance gamer.
That's rather unfortunate, Dr. Ubershadow. You gotta take some sarcasm classes. It's very important.
Really gotta take some sarcasm courses.
It's very important. Absolutely the most important thing you could ever do.
Not sure if this is sarcasm, though.
See, once you get through the course, you'll totally know whether or not this is sarcasm.
Indeed you shall. So, Freelance, did you see any of the stuff about Battlefield 1 and the fact that they made all the expansions known now?
Yeah, I saw that actually, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, we're getting the Russian army in the next one, and then they're doing the third one, which is like naval based, which is sweet, and that'll be fun. There's not much like heavily naval based maps. Like there's a couple that like have coastlines, but I'll be curious to see if there's any island warfare. I don't know anything about the, what is it? I think it's, in the notes here, it's like based off of the Zeebrugge raid, and then the last one is like a lot of infamous World War I battles. I think that'll be cool. I mean, I know Mike was like Russian army. What now? How can Russian army?
It's true. He is Captain Russia there. So, or should I say Mother Russia? But
You get that right, comrade.
so yeah, those are the second, third, and fourth set of expansions that are coming for Battlefield 1, and there's not a time frame set on those, but it's basically soon. Over the next couple. I guess it's not really a couple months. It's kind of the next quantity of months. It's like over the year, I guess, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be the release schedule for those. But it gives you a little bit of kind of things to look forward to here that you can be like,
and some info on what you're getting into and what you can expect to some extent.
And whether or not you're going to be abandoning this franchise earlier rather than later, you know, depending on whether you don't want to play any of those things. And also, I mean, I guess kind of also give you some early insight into whether you should buy the season pass or not.
Right.
So, because they did say all those are going to be available as part of the season pass. And they didn't give the individual prices because they're not anytime soon. But
probably at least 15 each.
Yeah. So whatever.
I think season pass is 30. So it ends up being like 3 for the price of 2.
Right. But moving on here, we do have some interesting news about the latest Nvidia graphics card that's coming out. It's the GTX 1080 Ti, and there is some questions of why you would buy a different card over this one. Basically, it is a Titan X Pascal card for roughly half the cost. So the only thing that this card doesn't have compared to a Titan X is one of the 32-bit memory blocks are disabled on it. But otherwise, it's roughly half the price. It's got all the power minus that one tiny thing, and they're actually even able to run the memory at a higher rate because there's one less gig of it. So there's a question of whether, you know, how much of an impact does that make? Is it almost as good as having the full 12 gigs of RAM, or is it, you know, not really that big a difference? I don't even know how big a difference 1 gig of RAM is once you're at 12 gigs. Like, is there a big difference between 11 and 12 gigs even?
Right.
You know,
it's a 9% increase.
Right. So it's like, is that a big deal? I don't know. They're saying it's going to be 35% faster than the existing 1080. and they're actually, as a result, lowering the cost of the 1080 by about $100. So because it, I think the 1080 was like $599 or something like that, $699, and so with a new card coming in at $699, then no one would buy a 1080. And I still really don't know who's gonna buy a Titan X Pascal, because like there's almost no purpose to it now. Like it's a
It's been
product,
superseded.
but there's something better out. It's just like when the Titan X, the last Titan X, got surpassed by the 1080, and everyone was like, well, why would you buy a Titan X now? And then they came out with a new Titan X, and we're like, oh, okay, well, that's why you would buy a Titan X. And now they came out with a new 1080 that beats the new Titan X. So it's like, what?
Now we're gonna see a Titan, Titan X and blah blah blah, Titan X 1090 edition or some shit.
Right, exactly. It's got to be like the next jump, so that way you can justify, and it's gonna be something absurd. Oh, it's got 18 gigs of RAM, and you're like, whoa.
How is that even?
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, and then what'll end up happening is they're just gonna use it to their advantage to keep making people buy a new card every year.
And they're like leapfrogging themselves. It's almost like there's no competition yet with AMD, so they're like, hey, we're gonna just compete with ourselves.
If they were still ATI, there might be.
This is very true. It's very true. Well, supposedly AMD is bringing a battle. It's just not quite here yet.
Right.
So we'll wait for that anxiously to see whether it really packs a punch like they're saying it might, and compared to the big deal here with Ryzen on the CPU side. So,
which is, well, supposedly not as good for gamers, but
well,
we'll wait for more data on that one.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Hard to say at this point, but something that we have received more data on, though, is the Nintendo Switch that just came out this past Friday, and there was a lot of hype and minor skepticism about different pieces and aspects with it, but now we're finally getting some information about it. And Freelance, I heard you got to actually play with one.
Yeah, I got like 30 minutes at work today. A coworker brought it in with Breath of the Wild, which is a fairly fun game. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Except for using it with the screen and controllers is like you trying to play a video game with a Kindle Fire with controller sticks. The controller sticks are responsive and they work, but just holding the thing is very awkward. Like,
yeah.
Deters the experience of gaming on it, in my opinion.
I'm not terribly surprised by that. Like,
and then
it seems
on top
like
of that,
big.
Well, yeah, and then like the charging port's in a weird place. It's at the bottom. Yep. The screen doesn't flip, so it's not like you can just flip the thing. And the Joy-Cons only attach a certain way.
Yeah, so there's no real getting around it.
And then there's not a whole lot of launch titles. There's 9 games on the virtual store. And Bomberman R sucks. And it's like $50 for a Bomberman game, which I don't understand.
Are they normally good?
Bomberman's a very simple, normally pretty fun game. And for a Bomberman game to suck and cost a lot of money, I don't get it.
That's rather unfortunate.
But I mean, they got like Shovel Knight for like $10.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that what are probably going to be some of the more anticipated and better titles are not launch titles. That you have to wait, a couple months or almost a year to get to the, some of these titles that people are really interested in playing.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're interested in Breath of the Wild, that's your game, go for it. Otherwise, it's like, wait 6 months or so.
Yeah, wait for more titles, and definitely...
And the virtual console, and
definitely give it a try at wherever Switches are sold and have demo consoles, so that way you can, get a feel for it before...
Get the Pro Controller.
Yeah, I get the feeling that this is, like, way better as a sit-down on a docked type console rather than a mobile one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is unfortunate because like that was supposed to be like the whole hype of this console as a thing, was like it's better because you can do either. But it's kind of my argument I always have against 2-in-1s. If you think about it, like 2-in-1 laptop
laptops?
tablet
Yeah.
combos is like, most of the time, like there are some really nice ones that usually cost a lot of money, but there are also some ones that are not good at being a tablet or a laptop. And I was kind of worried that the Switch would be kind of that category of not good at being a mobile gaming platform, and thus also crippled at being a good TV console.
Right.
So I'm curious if we're starting to see this kind of play out now, that exact concern.
Right. Another thing, I mean, there's some good things. I heard the Pro controllers work like with Mac and PC.
Indeed, also the Joy-Cons work with Mac and PC too, which is kind of surprising. So if you
Yeah, they use Bluetooth, and that's like been causing problems with like if you have your Switch near fish tank.
that's my favorite problem.
I don't even. And then there's some other things where like when you're docking the thing, it'll scratch the bottom of your screen or under the screen.
That's a rather
Like it'll scratch.
unfortunate thing, to be honest.
And then the other way you can seriously scratch your system is by skinning it.
That's actually, I think, the worst of all of the problems that it has. I think that's one of the biggest problems, that it has skins. And I would assume, they didn't say stickers, but I would assume that stickers have the same problem. Unless the skin uses a particularly different adhesive. But yeah, like it'll actually pull the finish of the Switch off if you put skins on it. And there's actually a skin manufacturer who was like, no, don't put skins on your Switch, and we're actually refunding and canceling all of our planned skins that were going to be available for the Switch because it's going to destroy your console.
Right. Yeah, and then my one coworker was saying that the game saves are actually on the OS side of the drive. So if your game console crashes out, you're gonna lose those.
That's a design flaw.
So yeah.
That's a really big design flaw right there. And because it's not like that's not an occurrence that's happening right now. I've seen a number of occasions of people complaining about both a blue screen of death and an orange screen of death, one of which you can reboot, and you can hard reboot and fix.
Yeah, and you'll be fine.
And you're fine, but the other one results in
in.
sending it in and getting a new one.
Right.
So little things like that. I've seen a couple posts where people were like, you should not buy this console right now because it's like a public beta almost. Especially with the different problems people have came out talking about with the left Joy-Con not being quite as good connectivity-wise compared to the right one. Which I did see a post on. Apparently a guy tore it down and found the right unit has a dedicated Bluetooth antenna that is actually in it, and the right one has a PCB printed antenna that's in a spot. Oh yeah, the left one is in a spot though that your hand frequently blocks. And so it's not necessarily always able to get out properly, whereas the right side doesn't have that problem. So it seems like little things like that are kind of what is happening. And the other thing with it is you can't share micro SD cards between consoles. The system will actually wipe them when you try to put them in. So, but from what it seemed like, it didn't look like you actually, like if you put, let's say your camera SD card from your phone or something like that, it won't actually wipe non-Switch related things off of it. So it does at least have some kind of granular understanding of what's on the flash memory. But so that's kind of a good thing. So you're not going to lose all of your stuff that was saved on it that's extraneous. But it is unfortunate that you can't just use them interchangeably.
Right.
But moving along here, there is some information about a rather kind of sizable Twitch update. Whether it's something we need, I have no idea, but apparently Twitch is basically they're going to be adding full social networking capabilities, for lack of a better description.
Let the trolls go.
They're
just gonna go.
Indeed, it's like basically you can post updates and videos and whatnot to a newsfeed type thing, which this whole thing they're calling Pulse. And their little teaser video was like, now you never have to leave Twitch. Yay. Which, I mean, is a thing for sure. But I don't know that I want to be stuck on Twitch all the time.
Yeah, Twitch
You know?
is pretty fine.
Like, it's fine, but it's like, that's a lot of time to be just spending all day, Twitch all day, all the time, no leaving, no nothing.
Unless they can integrate Reddit in, nah.
They did say that it is kind of based off the existing channel feed feature that they've been rolling out to people, and it's kind of an expansion of that. But we'll be rolling out to everyone sometime in mid-March. So definitely want to be on the lookout for that. If you're a streamer, you'll be able to post all of your game updates right there, and you won't have to do it on other places. Imagine this is kind of trying to be the one-stop shop for all your gaming stuff. I mean, between all of the video-on-demand stuff that they already have, building on their streaming platform. I mean, it's kind of got it all now. So, who needs a Twitter? And you've got Twitch. But, well, that's all we got for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the American Truck Podcast. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button down below. Perhaps also hit the subscribe button. And maybe leave a comment down below. And we will see you guys in the next one.